Unique Spiritual Experiment on Collective Consciousness, Part 2, Joint Effort for Spiritual Remedy. Ascetic endeavors on one's own and sadhana in solitary are of special significance in spiritual elevation. However, the influence of these is mostly confined to the purification and illumination of the individual self and the limited periphery of the domain of its activities. Greater force of collective effort is essential when a deep-rooted ailment of wider social dimension is to be treated. The grand experiments of the kind of Rajasuya, Ashwamedha, and Bajpai Yagyas used to be conducted in the ancient times for such altruist purposes. What was impossible to be achieved by the limited, thought-dedicated attempts of few saints, intellectuals, and the emperors used to be succeeded by the joint strength and sincere participation of the masses. United efforts bear unique importance in life. Ample examples demonstrate this fact in the physical world too. Tiny tips of dry grass, while knitted together, form a strong rope. Gathering a group of wickers make a broom. Palatial houses and skyscrapers are constructed by firm joining of small bricks. The sun rays bring bearable heat when spread on Earth's surface. While focused together at a point via a convex lens, the same rays kindle fire almost instantaneously. The power of union and collective endeavors is far more significant in the fields of consciousness and spirituality. The grouping of one inert object with another gives two objects, whereas the joint venture of two active, talented persons may work like that of 1 and 1 equals 11 or even more. The enthusiasm and joy generated by the combined faith of the pilgrims is truly remarkable, as seen in their pilgrim voyage in large groups. Organized move or larger and larger congregation of people of compatible ideologies motivated for a common aim creates intense ambience of greater and greater influence. This generates a specific flow of subliminal conscious force. The grand religious anushtans and revolutionary movements often induce such effects. Subliminal currents generated by commingling of emotional power on such occasions are like a gigantic cyclone that could take along everything and blow it up in the high skies. The smog of anarchy, unrest, tensions, and devil instincts pervaded in all horizons of life today can be cleared only by the penetrating counter-effects of cosmic grandeur. This could be effectuated by the collective spiritual powers inspired and devoted to the pristine cause of divinity. The astonishing effects of such collective endeavors were successfully achieved in the Vedic age. The great rishis of yore had realized the limitless power of collective consciousness. The use of plural numbers in all the hymns of the Vedic scriptures affirms this fact. For instance, Anno Bharada Kratvo Yantu Vishwata. The best thoughts from all over the world may descend upon all of us. Agne Naya Supataraye Asman. O eternal source of brilliance, illumine and inspire all of us towards the righteous path. The following suktas of the Rig Veda and the Atharveda elucidate the importance attributed to the cooperation and togetherness. Samgachadvam, samvadadadvam, samvomanasi janatam, devabhangam yatha purve sanjananam upasate. Meaning, we all should walk together, converse and discuss jointly. Let us all be enlightened by similar sentiments and thoughts. Samaniva akutihi samanāradayānivaha samanamastu vo mano yathavaha susahayasati. Meaning, our attitude and tendencies should match, our hearts and mind should get along well so that we all could live together with amicable harmony. Historical examples of collective spiritual endeavors. Age after age, the history of mankind has witnessed the success of epoch-making joint endeavors in eradication of devil, terror, and evil tendencies, and purification of subtle environment of life. The Devasur Sangram, war between the divine and the devil powers, described in the Puranas, remarks the importance of united efforts. It cites a story. After being defeated by the egotist giants of the devil's might, the Devtas went to the eternal Creator, Prajapati, and prayed for thy shelter and guidance. Prajapati then combined some fractions of the powers of all Devtas and created the deity Durga, who absolutely destroyed all the Asuras. Durga symbolizes in the Rishi culture the united powers of divinity and ultimate might and valor. A similar episode is associated with the post-Vedic era, Treta Yuga, when the saintly men and women went to the rishis and urged for emancipation from the tyranny of the Asuras of that time. The rishis promised them protection and peace. At an appropriate time, all the rishis donated few drops of their blood and collected it in a pot. The supernatural energy of their spiritually activated prana gave rise to a divine power, manifested as goddess Sita, who, as described in the Holy Ramayana, became the cause of elimination of the dreaded Asura like Ravana in the Treta Yuga. Here again, the united force of the prana of the great rishis could do the otherwise impossible wonders. The role of monkeys and bears in the battle of Sri Ram and Ravana also illustrates the necessity and importance of mass movement at the grassroots. Ram and Lakshman were divine incarnations, drying up a sea and ruining the reign of Ravan was no difficulty for them. Hanuman, who became endowed with the power of Rudra, Shiva, was able to pick up and throw away huge mountains with ease, could have sunk Lanka, the golden kingdom of Ravana, in no time. However, this would not have served the real purpose of arousing the collective power of the masses that was the need of that era. This is why the grand army of small monkeys and bears was formed in this crucial battle of weighing out the devil influence and establishing the rule of truth and peace. Lord Krishna, the manifestation of the Almighty in human form, had liberated the world from the cruel autocracy of Kansa, Jarasandha, Shishupal at a very young age. He could have ruined the perverted Kauravas and their gigantic army in few moments. He preciously strove for the unity of the armed forces of the distributed states in favor of the Pandavas in the historical war of Mahabharata. In his childhood too, he encouraged collective participation of the masses of Gokul for lifting up the Govardhan hill, despite being able to do so on his own little finger. Purified energization of the subliminal environment and the righteous reconstruction are the Herculean tasks that remain after the destruction and removal of the evils. This facet has also been an integral part of the above phase of history. In the Ramayana age, the supramental faculties of the rishis had recognized the poisonous flow in the subtle environment that had triggered expansion of the Asura from Lanka to Chitrakuta and Panchvati. They had guided specific yajnas for its purification. The Battle of Lanka and related course of events after the divine incarnation of Sri Ram completely uprooted the devil's reign from the land. Even after all the Asuras were killed, the hidden force of their evil tendencies remained active in the subtle world. Unique experiments of collective spiritual force were then performed through the large-scale Ashwamedh Yagyas for the necessary purification. The Dash Ashwamedh Ghat of the Gangas in Kashi Varanasi stands a witness to this divine endeavor that laid the foundation of the ideal emperor of Ram Rajya. Lord Krishna's era also marks similar developments. Killing of devil descendants like Kansa, Jarasangh, Shishupal, and many others, and the devastating war of Mahabharata were the visible part of thy project. The Pandavas were sworn in after the bloodshed victory in Mahabharata war. The ambience of life was still pervaded by the subtle echo of cruelty and immoral deeds. Elimination of this untoward flow was a must before progressive reconstruction, as the evil impact of the subtle would have again sparked off depravation and malice in one form or the other. Lord Krishna then guided the Pandavas to perform the grand Ratsuya Yagya with active participation of people from all walks of the society, from all over the world for this essential purpose. This, in fact, was the basis of the edifice of real Mahabharata, a grand, united Indian nation. Buddha had changed the trends of the medieval era, inspiring the collective arousal of the masses. His preaching of Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, indeed vibrated awakened souls and led to the formation of an army of Buddha sannyasis and sannyasins, which was dedicated to the noble aims of Dhammam. The collective sadhanas and constructive efforts of these disciples spread his message of peace and kindness all over the globe. It's only 2 decades ago when the world recognized the astonishing force of the nonviolent mass movement adduced by Mahatma Gandhi for the independence and sovereignty of India. The united strength of people, motivated for a common patriotic goal, had shaken and eventually ousted the mighty British Empire. The tradition of Tirtha and Dharma Anushtan were founded by the rishis for rousing and channelizing the collective power of morally inclined people for global welfare and spiritual enlightenment for all. The grand religious congregation of Kumbh used to be organized every 3 years successively at Haridwar, Prayag, Ujjain, and Nasik in the Vedic times. Great saints, sages, and scholars used to meet and discuss the global problems of those days to produce effective solutions and constructive plans for bright progress and peace of all living beings. Large number of devotees and religious-minded people from all sections of the society used to attend congresses and were blessed by the nectar of eminent knowledge and guidance of these saints and sages. They used to carry this light back home and help expand its illumination across wider directions. These kinds of dharma anushtans, be that of holy dip of the kumbh or the herbal sacrifices in the sacred fire of the Ashwamedh Yagya, used to marvelously serve the purpose of inner purification, Gyan Yagya, and spiritual enlightenment at a larger scale. Although the tradition of Kumbh Mela and the Tirthas, etc. is still alive in some form, their purpose, modes of organization, and effects seems to be far away from the original. It looks as though only the skeleton is left, that too in a damaged and deformed shape, without the prana of these dharma anushtans. Yug Nirman Yojana, a constructive attempt to meet the call of our times. As part of its Yug Nirman Yojana, a mission of social, cultural, and spiritual refinement and reconstruction, the Gayatri Parivar Shantikunj Haridwar has mobilized a unique spiritual experiment at the critical juncture of the change of an era. This experiment of Yug Sandhi Mahapurush Charan is an epical experiment of collective sadhana of Gayatri meditation. This 12-year-long Ashwin Navratri October 1988 to Vasant Panchami January 2001 experiment induced dedicated participation of sadhaks, spiritually motivated devotees from different parts of the world. It was aimed at eliminating the assiduous assimilation and purifying the subliminal environment of life and orienting the deluded and astray minds towards a prudent, constructive direction. The Gayatri Parivar has achieved long goals of Dharma Anushtan, resurrecting the noble tradition of the Vedic age under the sagacious guidance of its founder Vedamurti Taponishta Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. Specific spiritual experiments in this series have proved their validity in timely control and prevention of dreaded dangers of varied dimensions via effective influence over the hidden causes in the subtle environment. The Sahasrashu Brahma Yagya performed on the Gayatri Jayanti 1953 was the first spiritual experiment of grand participation of people from all parts of the society. It was the auspicious commemoration of the glorious completion of the 24 divine Mahapurush Charan, revered by Gurudev Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. This also marked the foundation of Gayatri Tapobhumi in Mathura at the ancient Tapastali of Maharishi Durvasa. About 25,000 sadhaks from different corners of India who participated in this grand yagya had pledged for 125,000 japas of the Gayatri mantra, havans of 125,000 ahutis of this holy mantra, and 125,000 vrata upavasa. All of them completed this sadhana jointly in 18 months. This Mahayagya and the associated sadhana was indeed the commencement of the divine endeavor of Yug Nirman, reconstruction of an era by the great visionary, angelic devotee of Gayatri and a pioneer of the renaissance of the science of spirituality, Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. This Yug Rishi had highlighted the role of the Mahayagya in the August 53 issue of the Hindi monthly Akanjoti magazine as, "We all may note that this Mahayagya is going to bestow supernormal benefits. The seeds of the new bright era in the 21st century are imminent in its subtle effect.